Today is Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, which means it's Derelict Tuesday, and this episode is so unbelievably late. Hello, fiendlings, how the hell are ya? It is done.
Gee, that's great, Paul, but what the void are you talking about?
The Derelict Saga. That's what I'm talking about. The second draft of Trident/Shipyards is finished, and it's in the hands of the alpha reader. Last week, I wrote the final words to the epilogue and then spent a day coding and then spent an entire day editing. Managed to get roughly halfway through Shipyards while cutting scenes, rewriting sentences that were terrible. Oh man, did I find some doozies. And other esoterica like characters that changed names and genders within the space of a single paragraph. Seriously, where was my brain that day? I can't get to work on narrating Shipyards until I get the text as close to final as I can. That includes getting back the final copy after professional editing. Basically, I'm once again saying, I don't have a sodding date for you. Just know that it will happen before Trident's podcast run finishes. One thing I can announce with certainty is that Derelict, Trident, and Derelict Shipyards will be published in the next few months by Severed Press. The book called Derelict Trident will combine the two stories into one tome, and the audiobook will do the same. In my mind, the Derelict Saga is still 5 books, but will publish as 4. Confused yet? Good. For those of you that have wanted an ebook/trade paperback version to complete your collection, to go along with or instead of the audiobook, consider your wish fulfilled. That's all I'm going to say for now. With that, it's time to get into the episode. Be safe, have a great week, and we'll talk again real soon. Hopefully this Friday. Here's episode 13 of Derelict Trident. Chapter 19. Kelly stood next to the SV-52, her rifle held in her arms. Talby had landed the craft behind S&R Black. With as far as Oakes had taken the large ship into the hangar, there was plenty of room for Talby to bring the craft in. The cockpit opened, and the lieutenant pulled himself out of the support vehicle, his mag gloves keeping him from floating away. Private Copenhaver, his gunner, rose from the turret but kept her feet mag-locked to the SV-52's deck. Awaiting orders, Callie noted with approval. Talby glanced around the hangar bay, found Wint and Murdoch by the 3D printers, and seemed to nod.
Corporal,
he said.
Carbonaro and Dickerson as sentries?
Aye, sir, Kelly said. Wint and Murdoch are the inner defense. If Alpha needs to retreat, Beta will provide cover.
Good,
Talby said.
Let's hope we don't need them for that.
Copy that, sir, she said.
Command crew,
Dunn said over the comms.
Time to have a briefing.
Talby put his hands on his hips.
Inside, sir? No,
Dunn said.
Black and I will send you block instructions and updated schematics, but we'll do the briefing like this. No point in bringing you back on board. Very good, sir,
Talby said. Kelly could almost hear the smile in his voice. There wasn't much point in getting back on the ship. By the time they re-entered, pressurized, and locked up the cargo bay, they would lose at least 5 minutes and then another 5 doing it all over again. Besides, they were already as well armed as they could be. Emergency O2 stations were scattered throughout the hangar, and they were about as safe as possible on the station. For now.
Oakes, brief us. Aye, sir,
Oakes said. A record appeared in Callie's block. She accessed it and brought it up. A 3D map of the space between Neptune and the outer Kuiper belt appeared. 2 blue orbs glowed in the center of the diagram.
These are the 2 KBOs Black encountered on our way to Pluto.
A timestamp appeared in the bottom of the map. The orbs moved further toward Neptune's space with each change in the days. Kelly's mouth slowly dropped open. By the time S&R Black had reached Pluto, the KBOs were more than halfway between where Black encountered them and Trident Station. They had moved fast, accelerated. The simulation ended.
If they remain on the same trajectory and acceleration, they should be here any minute. Any minute?
Talby asked.
But they're not showing up? No,
Oakes said.
And I don't think we're in any danger of them showing up. Why's that?
Dunn asked. Oakes paused and Talby could practically hear the hitch in his throat.
I think they're already here, sir. Why?
The captain asked.
The energy wave,
Oakes said.
Think about it. Whenever the exosolar life forms encountered photons, they became more agitated, more energetic.
More hostile, Callie whispered.
Yes.
Oak said.
Hostile is a good way to put it. If the energy wave was as powerful as Black's analysis maintains, I believe the KBOs could have ridden that wave to increase their acceleration. Oh, shit.
Talby said.
I don't like the sound of this. Me neither.
Oak said.
They may have arrived days ago.
Callie winced. When the hangar bay door had first opened, she'd expected impossibly black starfish-looking life forms to come floating out, their maws spitting acid and taloned arms searching for pliable human flesh. She'd known it was silly, that they'd left those things back at Pluto, and there was nothing to fear, but part of her had known better, had known the truth. When Dunn finally spoke, she realized he'd suspected all along. Hell, maybe he even knew.
Okay, Marines, we're going to assume the energy wave is not the only reason most of Trident is without power. That means we need to treat this as an infantry action in hostile territory. You see something, you call it out. You find something, you report it. You come across any of the hostiles, you terminate with extreme prejudice, but you are to retreat before engaging until we have more intel and more ammunition that actually does something to them. Is that understood? Aye, sir,
They responded.
Oaks,
Dunn said.
I want a new course plotted for the Uranus shipping lanes and an in-depth analysis of every reading we picked up on our mission. You and Black put that together. Aye, sir. Noble, I want you to scrounge what you can, print what you can't, and restock this ship. We need a minimum of 2 more skiffs, 4 if we have enough materials. And I want another SV-52. Aye, sir. I may need some help with that. Coordinate with me,
Dunn said.
Not many hands to go around. Aye, sir.
Noble said.
Talby, Calimora, I have 3 priorities, but we're going to take them one at a time. First priority is getting us supplies. Find out from Noble what he needs and scout the other S&R hangars. Do not, I repeat, do not engage any hostiles. Aye, sir.
Talby said.
Second priority is figuring out what the void is going on. Lieutenant, I need a scouting mission at Trident Station. For now, ignore the shipyards. I want to know which modules are obviously damaged. We need a safe path in case we need to retreat to the interior. Aye, sir. And the third? Third priority, we need to get the station's power back on, but we'll deal with that after the first 2. Understood? Aye, sir.
Talby said. Callie echoed him.
Any questions?
Dunn asked. Aye, sir, Callie said. What about searching for survivors? The comms went silent for a moment. At first, she wondered if Dunn was about to verbally reprimand her or if he was rethinking Talby's choice as squad leader.
Corporal, if we don't succeed in the first 3 priorities, it won't matter,
He said.
If you find them, report in, but don't go intentionally looking for them.
Aye, sir, she said hollowly.
Any other questions? No, sir.
O'Shea and Talby said.
Good hunting. Done out.
Talby connected directly to her with a long sigh.
Okay, Corporal, here's how we're going to do this. I have to fly, so you're going to be in charge of the infantry.
Aye, sir, she said.
Construct the fire teams however you want, but I suggest you put Carb or Went in the lead of one of them. They're the 2 most likely to challenge your authority.
He chuckled.
Although I think you've dealt with Carb.
Aye, sir, she said with a grin.
Hangars first, find us supplies. Also, I'm making a squad change.
Sir? She asked.
I'm giving you Copenhagen. Murdoch is going to help Noble with whatever he needs.
Callie nearly laughed. Aye, sir,
Find me some ammo, Corporal.
he said.
If these things are here, we can't fight them with regular flechettes. And you let me know the second you find them.
Understood, sir,
Good hunting, Corporal.
he said. You too, sir. It was impossible to see his face through the visor, but she could tell he was smiling. What she didn't know is if it was a real smile or the grin of concern. As he turned back to the SV-52, her mind let go of the thought. She had shit to do now. She brought up the squad channel. Murdoch, report to Lieutenant Noble immediately. Copenhagen, you're with me,
Hi, boss.
Copenhagen said. Murdoch replied in the affirmative, but sounded confused. She wasn't surprised. She'd deal with his hurt feelings later. No, you won't, Gunny's voice growled in her head. No, she wouldn't. If he asked, she'd tell him to get his shit together and perform like a Marine capable of being in the infantry. Just like Gunny would. Chapter 20. Talby left the hangar bay sans Copenhagen. Murdoch manually closed the pressure door and once again sealed up S&R Black's hangar nice and tight. Before the door had even closed, Talby tapped the maneuvering thrusters and rose upward relative to the hangar. When you spent most of your time in space with grav plates, you tended to always think of up as an imaginary vertical line stretching from your feet to infinity, just like a person on Earth would. The moments you were floating in microgravity made it difficult to orient yourself. Fortunately, stations tried to make that as simple as possible using paint, the direction of the habitat rings, if they had them, and lighting. This side of Trident was completely without power, but the SV-52's bright lights easily found the luminescent paint. He continued rising meter by meter as he waited to reach the habitat rings. Once past the quartermaster tubes and maintenance levels, the hull plates for them appeared intact. Trident's roughly pear-shaped body became more and more concave, and gaps appeared between the rings. Talby's eyes widened. The habitat ring closest to the hangar modules was riddled with deep, massive gashes. 2 of its hull plates were missing. Something large enough to take out several bulkheads had punctured its way in through the steel. This side of Trident had taken a direct hit. From what was the question? Black, make sure you get all of this.
Yes, Lieutenant. Your feed is being forwarded to Captain Dunn.
Thank you, Black. Of course it was being forwarded, and Dunn would damned well see it, but he was probably busy coordinating with Calimura's squad. Well, Talby was supposed to be inspecting. Time to figure out just how damaged the station was. He thrust it away from the station for a few seconds before ceasing the craft's velocity and rotating 180 degrees. He could see the entire profile of the habitat ring now, and the damage was extensive. At the same time, however, it hadn't been catastrophic. The emergency seals would have cordoned off the damaged sections as best they could. Anyone caught within that area of the ring was most likely dead, but other personnel would have been safe, unless the creatures had done the same to the inner bulkheads. How much atmosphere had been dumped? Was there any atmosphere left on the entire station? There weren't any visible pressure leaks, but considering the incident, attack, event, whatever you wanted to call it, probably happened nearly 2 weeks ago, that was no surprise. Any perforations in the hull would have immediately vented the damaged area. Talby's HUD flashed yellow with a radiation warning. Above average levels detected in the personnel ring, more than likely due to a radiation leak from one of the ring reactors. He'd just have to... The warning disappeared. The radiation sensor once again registered the normal background radiation of space and nothing else. Talby's brows knitted together. Black?
Yes, Lieutenant.
You get that?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Black said. A 3D graph appeared on his HUD and rotated on its side. The radiation source had moved as though it had approached an outward-facing bulkhead before retreating in an arc. Fuck, Talby whispered. They're in there.
If by they you mean exosolar life forms, I agree.
He glared at nothing. Of course I mean that. Can you adjust my scanner settings? I want to try and track the source.
Done,
Black said. Thank you, he muttered under his breath. He was a bit surprised when she didn't reply. Maybe she was learning. Finally. Talby turned up the spots to full as he approached the damaged rings. The lowest personnel deck, the one closest to the hangars and thus mostly empty, was warmer than background radiation. The rads weren't lethal, but they were near the red range. You could survive it, for a few weeks anyway. Then genetic damage would take its toll, exhausting the nanny's ability to repair, before every cell's telomeres began to unzip crookedly, each DNA strand more and more damaged, until the center couldn't hold. A few more touches on the thrusters, and he floated just a few meters away from the intact hull plates. The radiation signal continued moving, and Talby followed it. He sent a block command, and a wireframe map overlaid the ring on his HUD. According to Trident Station's schematics, he was tracking the radiation through the personnel ring originally built for the station's civilian personnel. It had been relatively unused since Mira was launched 50 years ago. So why are you in there? He continued his flyby, adjusting his trajectory every now and then to continue following the source. As it slowed, more radiation warnings flashed on his HUD. The rads were as close to the red line as you could get. The blurry splotch of light he'd been tracking had now grown into a storm of pulsing reds and yellows. Void wept, he said aloud. Black, inform the captain we have a shitload of bogies in the civilian personnel ring.
Yes, Lieutenant. He is aware of the situation.
Aware of the situation, he thought sourly. What a way to put it. He marked the area on his HUD, knowing Black already had the coordinates, and continued following the ring. He'd map every square meter of it, find every damaged plate, and map them all. When he was done, he'd move on to the next one. 5 more to go, and he was only 1/3 of the way done with this ring. As he moved away from the hot spot and the radiation warning disappeared, he wondered how many more of them he'd come across. He hoped like hell Calimura would have good news.